Hello friends, in this video I will show you new stuff that I have painted for Mythic Battles Pantheon. In my last Mythic Battles video I have promised to bring you a new battle report with Apollo versus Dionysus, and in order to do that I had to paint a bunch of new stuff that you see on the screen. I will go over the individual minis and I will talk about how I painted them. I've also incorporated the new Citadel contrast paints into my process, so I will talk about my experiences with Citadel contrast on the Mythic Battles miniatures. I also did a little bit of brainstorming with guys on Mythic Battles Facebook page to figure out which armies should I take for these two gods to make the battle report balanced. Apparently my suspicion that Dionysus will be quite overpowered proves to be true. And there is the god of the festivals and wine himself, the Dionysus. I'm really happy with how the skin has turned out. I used airbrush and Vallejo paints, dwarf flesh and pale flesh. For the shadows I have mixed in some blue into the shadows. And then I did some light washes with purple Citadel wash. So that's him. The little Satyr children, I actually painted them with snakebite leather. The feet are painted with wildwood, and the hooves and the bottom of the feet are painted with Black Templar. But I didn't like the yellowish tone of the snakebite leather, so I repainted them with regular paints, and I used different brown hues. Don't really remember which browns actually I have used, but more reddish, not yellowish. So I proceeded then with painting these his minions. I think this was the first pair that I have painted, but this was mostly like 90% contrast, so the vase is Black Templars contrast and Eanden yellow. The only thing that was painted with regular paints were the eyes and the horns. But I still was not happy with the skin. I repainted it with regular paints, but I wanted to make them lighter than these on the Dionysus. So this is like a second iteration. The third iteration was this. Yeah, and I used Decorath flesh for the amphora and the wildwood for the dark part of the amphora. And now I have painted the fur on the Satyrs with the Gorgurta fur. The skin was painted using regular colors. Again, I wanted to lighten them, and I wanted to get rid of the yellowish tone in the skin because I didn't like it. And I ended up actually somehow matching the Decorath flesh that I used on the vase. But this is not a Decorath flesh. This is a regular paint mixed. And the last iteration where I actually finalized my formula for Satyrs was this one. So here I used Decorath flesh on their skin. I painted the horns dark brown. The fur is Gorgurta fur, and the feet are wildwood. To contrast that, I actually made the vase slash amphora yellowish. So here I used the sandy yellowish paint from the contrast range. To follow up to that, since I have finalized the formula, I've painted these guys exactly the same way as I have described. The horns on them were painted using skeleton horde. And these look pretty good, and they were super fast to paint. Just a layer of zenithal highlight over black undercoat, and then a few quick layers of the contrast paints, and this is the result. Okay, next we have the other god for our jewel, the Apollo. Actually, the skin on him started with the same base as the Dionysus. I just didn't go that far with the highlights, and I did some glazes with a flesh wash from GW over the skin, so that's why he looks slightly differently compared to Dionysus. I painted his cloak with contrast paint. This blue paint was, I believe, Achelian green, ironically. I didn't like the result. I managed to do multiple layers in some places, and that made the cloak look bad. So I went back with regular paints and I did some more highlights. I then did more shadows with the Achelian green. This is the result. I'm not that happy with it, but well, you live and you learn. The browns on him were also painted using the contrast paint. So for example, this is the snakebite leather, wildwood, I guess, yeah, wildwood. Well, this is Apollo. Then I have painted some monsters, and we will start with this one. There are some new rules for flyers in 1.5, and we haven't used flyers in any of our battle reports, so I decided to paint two, so each player can have one of the flyers. So the first one is the Gryphon. He was painted mostly with an airbrush using regular Vallejo paints, different browns. This was, I think, some skin tone from Vallejo that I used for, well, lion body. The white here I washed with apothecary white. So this was base coated with a bony color, something like Ushabti bone. Then I washed it over with apothecary white, and then I did a dry brush with pure white on top of it. One cute thing, I decided to paint his eye as a green gem to match these gems that he has on his collar here, and I really like the result. He's a mythical creature after all. I love this model. It's pretty cool and rhymes well. But yeah, let's move into this one actually. This is the Nemean lion. He was painted exactly the same way as the Gryphon, except for the mane, which I painted again with a contrast paint, and I have used first snakebite leather and then wildwood. And wildwood I concentrated on the edges to make the contrast between this skin and the mane quite high. Another cool model. The paws were just airbrushed with a little off-white color. I think this was the wraith bone. So that is the Nemean lion and the Gryphon. Next, the other flyer, the Phoenix. So this is the scheme that I decided to go for. I do understand that the flames usually are very bright and white towards the source of the heat, and then they get darker and colder and turn to smoke. But I couldn't figure out how would I do that on a min like this, so I just decided for a simple gradient from red to orange to yellow and to white on his wings. The body I then washed. I sprayed a little bit of brown just here and there in the total recesses and on his main body. I think he looks pretty cool, and he was super fast to paint. It took me like maybe 15 minutes altogether, maybe 20, to do him in this way. Oh, now he focuses. Phoenix. Another monster, the Python. So, all of the minis were zenithal highlighted in the beginning. Python was the same thing, and then just very simple green spray with an airbrush over the zenithal highlight, and I sprayed I think it was Dead Flesh from Citadel color on his bottom part to make this lighter. I originally wanted to paint the Python scheme, from a regular Python on his skin, but in the end I decided against it because that would take hours. Instead, this was painted in minutes. So, Python will be guarding the gemstones against the gem collector Dionysus. Okay, this is Echo. She's another board manipulation piece, and pretty cool mini and very simple to paint. The skin was actually painted just mixing some magenta and yellow and white. So I didn't use any specific skin tone there. And another hero, Orpheus. I wanted to match the paint scheme with what is on his dashboard, and I actually really like how he came out. He is mostly painted with the contrast paints, so all of the browns are contrast. The bronze armor and shield are painted using the scale 75, black gold and some silvers. Orpheus. Focus. Yes. Very moody pose. Like it. Then we have, I painted, now let's go to some regular units. I painted some Myrmidons for Achilles, in case he shows up in this battle. So, not much there. Bronze armor and weapons, again, scale 75. Scale 75 black gold. And I actually washed the shields with a contrast paint, Black Templar mixed with Dark Angel's green. So very, very dark green. That was used on all of the bronze armor like this that you will see here. For example, like you can see on the shield of, there is Jason and his golden fleece. So there is again the bronze using the same technique that I described before, and the golden fleece. Everything else is contrast paint except for his flesh, which was originally painted with contrast paint and mixed some Jack Korath flesh with some pink, but I didn't like the result, so I highlighted it with regular mixed paints. So that's Jason, and here are his Argonauts. Pretty much the same scheme. These guys should be actually all individuals, they were like a ragtag band that Jason recruited for his adventures on Argo. So I try to make them each one a little bit different, but they actually look quite horrible with this super bright, I do not know how these things are called, mohawks on their helmets. Yeah, the Argonauts. And finally, I have one more hero here, and that is this guy. This is Marsyas the Satyr. Satyr? Please, someone tell me how it should be pronounced in English. Satyr. That's how we say it here. Okay, so here is everything that I have painted for Mythic Battle so far. It takes up a whole shelf in the bookcase here in our club, in the Brothers in Dice Club / painting studio. So you can see the gods in the background, the monsters and the heroes and troops in the foreground. I have also some kill team miniatures here. They are from the special box. And here are some things which I want to paint next for Mythic Battles. So we have Orion and Centaur, whose name I cannot remember right now. But we have a painting tutorial on our channel here for Pan there. We have a painting tutorial for Ares. Yeah. We have a painting tutorial for Minotaur, this guy. If you want to see more of Mythic Battles, subscribe to our channel. If you like minis in general, you can subscribe as well. We have other minis. We have some Warhammer 40Ks. This is Tom's Gene Stealer army. Not sure how much you can see against this white background. Here is my Nurgle army / Death Guard. Yeah, some more Chaos. This is the Black Legion, which you can see in the Tale of Four Warlords, and some of my old Chaos there. The Dominicans / Word Bearers.